Здравствуйте! Как дела? First of all, a quick reminder of greetings. Здравствуйте. Hello. Здравствуй is the informal equivalent of that. You're going to tell it to somebody you normally say ты to, but don't feel like saying howdy or something like that. Хорошо? So, здравствуй is a polite way of saying hello, but informally. Хорошо? Здравствуйте is saying hello to a group of people or to one person that you have to be formal with. Then you go to hi, which is привет. Хорошо? Затем вы можете также сказать, besides, you can also say доброе утро, good morning. Да? Хорошо? And following intonation in all of Russian greetings, partings, it is not a здравствуйте, it's a здравствуйте. Not good morning, but доброе утро 3-4. Доброе утро. Хорошо? If it's in the afternoon, you'd say добрый день 3-4. Добрый день. Хорошо? In the evening, you'd say добрый вечер. Хорошо. Затем давайте посмотрим нечто другое. Now let's go ahead and see what we have done in the previous lesson. We've looked at the modifier this, which is это, which does not depend on the gender of the noun it goes with when it is used in the meaning of this is or those are. When you say this is my book, это with an о, моя книга. This is my home, это мой дом. Это with an о does not change a slightest bit. However, when you are using that это as a direct modifier of a noun, such as this house is mine, then you have to have 4 different forms. You'd say этот дом мой. Хорошо? Just to remind you of that, let me have you look at these possibilities here. Посмотрите. So, masculine form. By the way, if you want to follow along with me, we are back on page 195, looking at the entry 11.1 in your book. Хорошо? Посмотрите. Этот портфель мой. So there it is. Этот портфель мой. Портфель, being masculine, requires you using этот, masculine form of this. Хорошо? If you've got a feminine noun such as книга, you'll have the next one. Это книга моя. So the noun книга is what established the forms of both this and my. Книга is feminine, as a result you've got это and моя. Хорошо? Это книга моя 3-4. Хорошо? Dealing with the neuter noun, you'd never know whether you're dealing with the general это or with this specific это for neuter. They look precisely the same. So there it is. Это пальто мое. Пальто neuter, so это. Хорошо? And finally, a different example, slightly new vocabulary. Деньги. Деньги. Деньги is money. And деньги in Russian is plural. Think of it. Money in English, in the meaning of it, is plural. It's a singular noun. You say, where is my money? But you don't mean just one thing when you talk about money. It's a collection of things put together, the concept of money. In Russian, it's literally plural and also grammatically plural. Деньги. And the ni, of course, is plural. So this money, but literally these monies, right, are mine. So эти деньги мои. This is my money, да? Эти деньги мои 3-4. Хорошо. Now go ahead and compare that to when you use это as a this is, those are. And keep in mind that Russians use это when they mean both this and that. So it's extremely useful. When they use it, they most likely gonna use это as well. When you talk about this is a book, это книга. Хорошо? That is a book too. Это тоже книга. So, and that over there is a book. И это тоже книга. So Russians tend to use это for this, that over there. No matter how close or far away, we like using это. Хорошо? So, there it is, unchanged. Used both for masculine, plural, anything you want. Это мой портфель 3-4. Это мой портфель. That's my briefcase. Хорошо? Едем дальше. And the next one. Это моя книга. That's my book. Это моя книга. Or this is my book. Who knows? Хорошо? And the next one. Это мое пальто. Хорошо? We don't care that пальто is neuter. Это does not change at all, because it means this is, that is. Хорошо? And the final example with the new vocabulary word. Это мои деньги. This is my money. Хорошо? Это мои деньги. Очень хорошо. Теперь давайте мы с вами повторим новый глагол. Let's go ahead and review a verb that can be referred to as new but has elements of an old verb in it. Remember the verb строить, to build. Строить means to be building in a way. You can say, they are building a house right now. And you'd say, они строят дом. Сейчас, right? More commonly, you're going to refer to something as it's been built. Хорошо, this house was built in 1976 or something like that. When you need to say that something was done, something was completed, a single complete action took place, you're gonna use what's referred to as a perfective verb. Most often, you're gonna be able to take a verb that you know, such as строить, and just add a special prefix to it, a special part in the beginning of the word, and end up with построить, to have built. Посмотрите, пожалуйста. Построить, to have built. Хорошо? The idea of that really is, it's the same as to say to build, with the emphasis on completion, the result. Хорошо? You'll see what I mean slightly later in the lesson. Let's see how it's conjugated. Построить, normal second conjugation verb. Of course, it ends in it. So then you get the same endings as in говорить. As a result, я построю, ты построишь, он построит, мы построим, вы построите, они построят. Хорошо? What does that really mean? It means to build. So you build, but with the meaning of completion. How does that fit into present tense? It actually doesn't. What you just saw were future tense forms. You'll see how that works a little later as well. This is just an introduction. What's more importantly to us right now is the past tense. To say that something's been done, something has been built in our case. What you're gonna do is use past tense of the verb построить. So to say he built, you'll have он построил. Хорошо? Take the infinitive построить, get rid of the мягкий знак, put an L for masculine. Хорошо? She built, you'll have она построила. Хорошо? Хорошо. И, наконец, последний пример. And the next example. I guess you could have a neuter оно построило. It built something. More commonly, plural would be used more often, right? Они построили. They have built. Хорошо? They built a new house. Они построили новый дом. I'm not saying they were building. I'm not saying they've been building. I said they got it done. They've done it. They've completed building it. So, when I'm emphasizing the fact that something's been done, completed, I'm gonna use this verb построить. So, they built a new home. Они построили новый дом. Очень хорошо. One more thing to review. Посмотрите, and that is duration of time. We've been dealing with minutes and hours. 1 минута, 1 час, etc. Last time we took the years. Let's go ahead and review that. 1 year is 1 год. Хорошо. 2 years, 2 года. From год we go to года. That's just like час, часа. That form is going to be used for 3 года, 4 года. Then at 5, we use a totally different word in a way. To say 5 years, you switch to 5 лет. Хорошо? That'll stick around through 20, at which point it'll go back to 21, 21 год. But let's go ahead and look through those forms once again, since you already know them. Read them after me, please. Or with me, for that matter. 1 год. 1 year. 2 года. 2 years, of course. 3 года. 3 года. 4 года. 5 лет. 6 лет, 7 лет, 8 лет, 9 лет, and then 10 years. 10 лет. All the way through 20, you're gonna have 11, 12 лет, etc. All the way to 20 лет. 20 years. Then, of course, 21 is gonna go back to год. Посмотрите. 21 год. 22 years. 22 года, 23 года, 24 года. 24 years, and then at 25, it's back to ending in a 5 through 0, which takes it back to лет. 25 лет. Очень хорошо. Now, we're going to look at something that you have very, very briefly seen in the last lesson, and that is an illustration of duration of time dealing with the verb идти, to go someplace, asking the question сколько времени, etc. How long does it take? We've seen сколько времени before. Take a look and see how it's written, of course. Сколько времени is how much time, and that can either mean сколько сейчас времени, what time is it now, which is the next one, сколько сейчас времени, хорошо? Or it could mean how long does it take to do something, and here's a more specific example, сколько времени идти в, how long does it take, how much time is it to go someplace. So, how long does it take to get someplace? Take a look at that dialogue again, then we'll go through it, and you'll see how that works. If you want to follow along, you're certainly welcome to look on page 197, and there you'll find a brief introduction of the concept, and then finally on page 203 you will have exercise 11.13 that'll show you how this works. So, here's the dialogue. Татьяна Владимировна, скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени идти в кафе?
5 минут. А скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени идти в школу?
10 минут. А скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени идти в театр?
В театр 4 минуты. А скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени идти в детский сад?
В детский сад 2 минуты. Скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени идти в магазин?
Я думаю, 5 минут. А скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени идти в кинотеатр?
11 минут.
Спасибо.
Пожалуйста. Очень хорошо. Очень простая иллюстрация этой концепции. That's a very simple illustration of the concept. We will get through it just as quickly explaining it. Посмотрите. So take a look at the first quick exchange. Скажите, пожалуйста. As always, start out your question with tell me please, could you tell me? Скажите, пожалуйста. And then the actual question. Сколько времени, how much time, идти в кафе, to walk to the cafe. Кафе, да? Хорошо? So, how long does it take to get to the cafe? Сколько времени идти в кафе? And the answer, 5 минут, 5 minutes. Хорошо? So, следующий пассаж, пожалуйста, посмотрите. Скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени идти в школу? How long does it take to get to school? 10 минут. Хорошо? Next, посмотрите. Скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени идти в театр? To go to the theater. 4 минуты. 4 minutes. And we're walking. That's pretty close. Хорошо? Едем дальше. Next one. Скажите, пожалуйста. Tell me, please. Сколько времени идти в детский сад? How much time to walk to the kindergarten? How long does it take to get there? Да? 2 минуты. 2 minutes. Хорошо? Дальше. Сколько времени идти в магазин? To go to a store. 5 минут. 5 minutes. Дальше посмотрите. Сколько времени? The next one. Идти в кинотеатр. To go to the movie theater. Сколько времени идти в кинотеатр? 11 минут. 11 minutes. How very precise. Хорошо. Ну что ж, очень просто. Меня здесь интересует чисто, чтобы вы выслушали этот диалог. What I'm truly interested in here is for you to hear that simple exchange pattern. Tell me, how long does it take? And the quick answer. Скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени, etc. So, see it once again. Пожалуйста. Татьяна Владимировна, скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени идти в кафе?
5 минут. А скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени идти в школу?
10 минут. А скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени идти в театр?
В театр 4 минуты. А скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени идти в детский сад?
В детский сад 2 минуты. Скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени идти в магазин?
Я думаю, 5 минут. А скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени идти в кинотеатр?
11 минут.
Спасибо.
Пожалуйста. Очень хорошо. Еще одна иллюстрация. One more illustration of this сколько времени, how long does it take to do something. The duration of time is right above the exercises that we just did. And that is exercise 11.12 on page 203. That's the one that you're about to see. And the question we're going to be asking there is сколько времени ехать? How long does it take to get? But now it's not walking, which is ET, but to go by some sort of ground transport. Not flying, not going by boat. Ехать. Хорошо? So, сколько времени ехать в... How long does it take to drive, ride a bike, whatever it might be. Хорошо? Take a look at that dialogue, please. Татьяна Владимировна,
да?
Скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени ехать в центр?
На машине 10 минут. А скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени ехать в кинотеатр?
На трамвае 11 минут. Скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени ехать в этот ресторан?
На метро всего 5 минут.
Да?
А скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени ехать в эту школу?
На автобусе 8 минут. И еще скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени ехать в это бюро?
На такси всего 2 минуты.
Спасибо большое.
Пожалуйста.
Прекрасно. Ну что ж, давайте посмотрим, что здесь происходило. Let's see what was happening here. Посмотрите, скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени ехать в центр? Tell me, please, how much time does it take? That's the always same part. Скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени, and then different. Ехать в центр. To go downtown, to the center, presumably, of the city. На машине 10 минут. By car, to say by car, you literally say on, and prepositional case of the transport. На машине 10 минут. Хорошо? And what we did here is we changed the both places and the transportation around. Now we're going to the movie theater. So, сколько времени ехать в кинотеатр? How long does it take to get to the movie theater? На трамвае 11 минут. By streetcar 11 minutes. Может быть. Хорошо, and the next. Скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени ехать в этот ресторан? How long does it take to get to this or that restaurant? We don't know which it is, да? На метро 5 минут. By subway 5 minutes. Хорошо. Следующий вопрос. The next question. Скажите, пожалуйста, 3-4. Скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени ехать в эту школу? How long does it take to get to this or maybe that school, да? We start out with эта школа and turn it into в эту школу. Accusative case, direct object. Хорошо, and the answer. На автобусе сколько? 8 минут. Хорошо? And the final example, there it is. Скажите, пожалуйста, сколько времени ехать в это бюро? How long does it take to get to that bureau? That can be any sort of company, organization, probably something governmental. Бюро. Хорошо? На такси 2 минуты. On taxi, by cab, 2 minutes. Очень хорошо. That looked like quite a bit of grammar to review. Certainly plenty for now. Хорошо? Now we are getting to something completely new. And I'll be honest with you, not very simple. This is the grammar that starts on page 198 in your book and goes on for the next 4 pages. So on page 198, 11.8 grammar entry, you've got this, the aspects of the Russian verb. While you know quite a bit about conjugating a verb. What it looks like in the past tense, what it looks like in present tense, and a little bit about the future, which you're still to learn. There is another level of complexity that we have to add to it in Russian, and that is the fact that basically every verb exists in two so-called aspects. It exists as two separate verbs. One is going to be dealing with the process. I am writing. Я пишу. Хорошо? Once I'm through with it, I could say I got it done. And that'll be a totally different verb. I would say я написал. So, the idea is that each verb, each action, is going to have an imperfective aspect, which means something that's not completed, and a perfective aspect, which is something that has been completed, something with the result accomplished. Хорошо? So basically, two verbs for each normal English verb. Seems complicated, and frankly speaking, only time is going to teach you how to deal with this. You will have to go through a whole bunch of examples before you understand what it is that I'm talking about, and then you'll need a whole bunch more examples and trying to use it on your own to see how it actually works. So I'm hoping that you are going to enjoy this whole new concept that we'll be working on in the next few lessons, actually. Хорошо? So, let's take a look at page 198. On the left-hand side there on the bottom, we've got a few examples. Первый пример. The first example. Виктор читал книгу 2 часа. Take a look. Виктор читал книгу 2 часа. We know the verb читать, that's to read. Читал must be past tense. Literally, Victor read the book 2 hours. Okay, what does that mean? When we don't have a preposition and we've got a time frame, that means that it's been done for that time. Хорошо? Which I guess then we can understand this as Victor read a book for 2 hours. Or he was reading a book for 2 hours. Хорошо? Еще раз. Виктор читал книгу 2 часа. Хорошо? And the next example with читать having been altered, посмотрите. Сейчас он прочитал книгу. Прочитал книгу. That is perfective of читал. Now he has read the book. Finished reading the book. He got it done. Хорошо? Not that he was doing it, the process, but he got it done. The result. Completion. Хорошо? The next two examples, посмотрите. Этот театр строили год. This theater, строили looks like past tense plural of строить, to build, a year. That means they were building this theater for a year. They took a year to build this theater, emphasizing the process, how much time it took. That's what they were doing a whole year. Хорошо? And the next example. Сейчас наш театр уже построили. Now our theater already построили. Построить is the perfective, as you remember. Has been built. They have finished building the theater. Хорошо? So the idea between Victor читал книгу 2 часа, Victor read the book for 2 hours, и Victor сегодня прочитал книгу, Victor today finished reading the book, is that while both those actions are not happening right now, both are in the past, one of them emphasizes the process and the other emphasizes the result. So what we've got here is two aspects of the verb. One is imperfective, and that's going to be dealing with the mere fact that something happened, with the process, most important word here, and with the repetition, when something was done over and over again. Like I went to school every day for 12 years. Хорошо? That's imperfective. Хорошо? And then the perfective. That's gonna put the emphasis on result and completion. Хорошо? With that in mind, let's once again look at those examples from the bottom of page 198. Посмотрите, пожалуйста. Виктор читал книгу 2 часа. He's been reading the book for 2 hours in the past. Imperfective. Dealing with the process. How much time it took. Хорошо? Извините. Next example. Сейчас он прочитал книгу. Now he has finished reading the book. He's through with it. Perfective. Completion. Хорошо? Next example. Этот театр строили год. They were building the theater for a year. Imperfective. Process. And the next. Сейчас наш театр уже построили. Now our theater, they already finished building. What horrible English. Now they have built the theater. Да? Хорошо? Perfective. Completion. Result. Here's the theater. That's the result. It's been done. Хорошо? So, on that happy note, let's go ahead and go to page 200 and look at the exercise 11.8a part. Хорошо? You're supposed to complete the sentences with the appropriate past or present tense of infinitive forms of the proper aspect. Wow. Okay. First of all, you're given a choice between читать and прочитать in the first batch. Читать is to be reading, прочитать is to have read, perhaps. So, if you are to say that somebody is simply reading a book right now, you'd say Анна читает книгу. To say that she finished reading the book, you'd say Анна прочитала книгу. To say that she often read books, repetition, you would say Анна часто читала книгу. Let's see if this becomes any more clear by having gone through some of these examples. So, номер 1. Татьяна Соколова утром всегда blank Россию. Татьяна Соколова in the morning always reads, I guess, the newspaper. So, that's what we get. Читает Россию. Хорошо? Лена редко blank газеты и журналы. Лена seldom same читает. There it is again. Let's just keep it there. Хорошо? Номер 3. Когда я blank журнал, я начал смотреть телевизор. When I blank magazine, I started watching television. Must be when I finished reading. So past tense of прочитать. Когда я прочитал журнал. Хорошо? Number 4. Вчера мы посмотрели фильм Анна Каренина. Сегодня я начал blank книгу. Yesterday we finished watching the movie Anna Karenina, and today I started reading. You started doing it. So начал читать. Посмотрите. Очень хорошо. Мария Петровна долго blank его письмо. Мария Петровна for a long time read. Читала письмо, emphasizing the time. Сейчас она его уже, now she has already finished reading it. Прочитала. Хорошо? I assigned some of these exercises for you. So, хорошо. We will get back to that a little bit later. One more thing before we go. Quick reminder of a saying that we've seen before. Куй железо, пока горячо. Куй железо, пока горячо. Strike the iron while it's hot. Meaning, while you have a chance, do it. Something very similar to it. Посмотрите. The next one. New one. Что было, то сплыло. Literally, what was has floated away. Meaning you may have had an opportunity, should have taken of it back then, now it's gone. Что было, то сплыло. We'll review that later. In the meantime, let's see what we did today. Посмотрите. Forms of the modifier this, duration of time, сколько времени ехать, etc. Aspects of the verb, just the beginning, and your homework. Exercise 11.8, page 200. Exercises 11.6, page 197, and as always, vocabulary and dialogues. Хорошо? Большое спасибо. До свидания. Здравствуйте. Как дела? A quick review of how are you now? Как дела? How's it going? How are you doing? Как вы поживаете? How are you doing? Actually more formal. More like how are you? Да? Как поживаете? 3-4. Как поживаете? Очень хорошо. And then you can have как anything. Хорошо? How is your family? Как ваша семья? How is your wife? Да? Как ваша жена? Anything at all. Хорошо? Как твой друг? How's your friend? Etc. Хорошо? Ну что ж, давайте подумаем с вами, что мы сделали в прошлый раз. Let's see what we did last time. We dealt with the modifier это. Этот, это, эти, etc. Depending on the gender, you use different kind. That was this. Хорошо? We dealt with duration of time. We said things like сколько времени ехать в театр? How long does it take to drive to the theater? Сколько времени идти в кино? How long does it take to walk to the movie theater? Хорошо? We also had our first glimpse at the imperfective and perfective aspects of Russian verbs. Things like я читал книгу, I was reading a book, or simply I read a book. Neutral, process, who knows. And я прочитал книгу, I have read the book. I finished reading the book. Two very different things. The latter one dealing with completion, result. Хорошо, I got it done. Хорошо, you'll see quite a bit more of it today and some other exciting things. Take a look at that. We'll very briefly review prepositional case. We will look at Dolga for a long time versus Davno for a long time, and how they're different and when use which. Хорошо? Similar to это, we will use modifiers one or entire and all, the whole thing. Хорошо? Those also depend on the gender. And more in aspects of verbs, you will see those aspects of verbs quite a bit. Хорошо. Let's review how modifier this works. Посмотрите, пожалуйста. Этот портфель мой. Портфель is masculine. We use этот. This briefcase is mine. Эта книга моя. The next one. This book is mine. Книга feminine, so you use это. Хорошо? Это письмо мое. This letter is mine. Хорошо? Письмо is neuter, so we use это with it. Эти деньги мои. This money, but literally these money, because деньги is plural. Эти. So, this money is mine. Очень хорошо. Very similar to that, you're gonna deal with the modifier весь, which means entire. Let's see it in the masculine form first. Весь вечер. Since вечер is masculine, you use the masculine form of entire, all. Весь вечер. Хорошо? For example, I read the book for the entire evening. Я весь вечер читал книгу. Хорошо? Then if you're using something feminine, you will have a different form of entire, different form of весь, which is gonna be вся, like the entire Saturday. Вся суббота. Суббота being feminine makes you use вся. That's the feminine form of all, entire. Хорошо? Little trick there also is that when you want to say that something was done for the entire Saturday, you'll put this вся суббота into accusative case and turn it into всю субботу. This must have proven useful to you doing exercise 11.6. Хорошо? So, now if you need neuter, you're gonna have всё. So, to say all morning long, the entire morning, это по-русски будет всё утро. Утро is neuter, so use neuter form of всё. Basically, these are just like any other adjective. Всё утро. They depend on the gender of the noun they modify. Хорошо? And now the plural of all or entire. Все люди. Люди is people, so all the people. Все люди. Хорошо? One more little piece of information for you. Всё with a yo used by itself also means everything. And все with a ye used by itself means everybody. What you're saying is всё neuter, all the things, and все plural, all the people. Хорошо? Ну что ж, кроме того, практически то же самое происходит с один. Practically the same thing happens with the modifier один. One. Хорошо? Посмотрите, как это работает. Let's see how that works. So the actual numeral один works as an adjective when it's used with a noun. So here we go. One evening. Один вечер. Хорошо? But when you need to say one Saturday, you'd say одна суббота. How strange. So, does that mean that when you want to say one house, you'd say один дом, but one car, you'd say одна машина? Absolutely right. That is exactly what we did with minutes. As you may recall, we had одна минута versus один час, 1 hour. Хорошо? So one works like an adjective. We certainly have a neuter form of it too. So if you want to say one morning, you'd say одно утро. Хорошо? Одно утро. Утро is neuter. Use the neuter form of one. Одно утро. Хорошо? And now you can have a plural form of one. How does that work? In this case, it's really going to mean alone. For example, they went to the movies by themselves. Они пошли в кино одни. What do you mean by themselves? They went alone. There were two of them, right? So how can it be alone? So as you can see, both English and Russian use somewhat confusing language. So одни in this case doesn't necessarily mean one, but probably alone of two people. Интересно? Хорошо. So, one more thing we're gonna do is review the verb читать, but with a prefix that makes it perfective. That is, makes it deal with the result, a completed action. Хорошо? And that's gonna be прочитать. And that means to have read, to finish reading, to read as a complete action. Not to be in the process of it, which is читать, but to get it done. Прочитать. Хорошо? And that brings me to the fact that there is no such thing as present tense of perfective verbs. As you remember, perfective verbs deal with result or completion. You cannot have something completed or have something accomplish a result and be still happening at the same time. As a result, you do not have present tense of the perfective verbs. So once you take the verb прочитать and conjugate it like you would the verb читать, you end up not with present tense forms, but with the future tense. Хорошо? So, think of читать. You've got я читаю, ты читаешь, etc. Now add a pra to it, and you get я прочитаю, which means I will read, I'll finish reading. That's future tense. Very simple. Looks just like present, but with the prefix. Я прочитаю. Ты прочитаешь. Please repeat after me. Ты прочитаешь. You will read something. Он прочитает. He'll read this book. Он прочитает эту книгу. Хорошо? Мы прочитаем. We'll read. Вы прочитаете. Они прочитают. Очень хорошо. And for the immediate purposes, we're gonna need the past tense of the verb прочитать. And that's simply прочитать. Get rid of the мягкий знак. And for masculine, you get прочитал. Like he finished reading. Он прочитал. Хорошо. She finished reading. Она прочитала. Хорошо. They finished reading. Они прочитали. Очень хорошо. Ну что ж. We're going to take another very, very close look this time at the examples for this whole concept of imperfective and perfective. Back to page 198. Хорошо? those examples, once again, at the bottom of page 198, we've got things like Victor read the book for the 2 hours. There it is again. Victor читал книгу 2 часа. We use читал, imperfective. This deals with simply stating the fact that he read the book. Not that he got it done, but he just did it. Хорошо? Or that he spent 2 hours reading the book. We're not talking about him accomplishing anything. We're not talking about him completing anything. That's just what he was doing. Хорошо? So, the next example, посмотрите. Сейчас он прочитал книгу. Now he has finished reading the book. Хорошо? Perfective. The idea there is he's done with it. He finished reading it. He has completed it. Хорошо? That's what прочитал means. Хорошо? Next example, еще раз. Этот театр строили год. Talking about the process of building the theater. The fact that it took a year to do it. We're talking about the process. We're talking about stating a fact. We're not talking about it getting done. Хорошо? Saying about it getting done, we'll use this next example. Сейчас наш театр уже построили. We've got строили with the prefix построили, па, that gives us it's been built. Хорошо? It has already been done. In fact, when you see уже, already, that's a pretty good indication that you're going to be dealing with perfective, dealing with completion, result. Хорошо? And, as I said, perfective, that is dealing with completion or result of something, can only happen in the past or in the future. No such thing as it being done and still going on now. Хорошо? So present tense only exists for the imperfective verbs. Imperfective, perfective, let's once again see how that whole thing works. Imperfective verbs deal with the fact, just stating that something happened. Process, talking about spending time doing something. Repetition, doing something over and over again, or at least more than once. Хорошо? Ну что ж. Perfective deals with the result. Something has brought a result, a completion. Most likely you'll be dealing with a single complete action. I got the book read. Я прочитал книгу. Okay? I went to the movies. Я сходил в кинотеатр. Went there and back. Just a single complete action. Хорошо? That's perfective. Отлично. Теперь давайте посмотрим, как у нас получилась работа с этими упражнениями. Let's see how the work on those exercises went. Exercise 11.8, part A. The first batch. Читать versus прочитать. Читать to be reading. Прочитать to finish reading. Хорошо? As we did in the last lesson, let's go ahead and once again see how those first sentences worked out. So, Татьяна Соколова утром всегда blank Россию. Татьяна Соколова in the morning always, and then we have the name of the newspaper. Must be reads, right? She always does it. We're stating a fact. It's about repetition. It's a process. Not that she gets it done. She just does it. Хорошо? That means, besides, it's in the present tense, isn't it? You don't have any choice. You're gonna have читает. Хорошо? Второй пример, second example, we've got Лена редко blank газеты и журналы. Lena seldom reads, so it's the same читает once again. Очень хорошо. Посмотрите дальше. Номер 3. Когда я blank журнал, я начал смотреть телевизор. When I blank the magazine, I started watching television. When you were still reading the magazine, you started doing it? Well, maybe. But most likely when I got one thing done, I went on to do something else. So, когда я прочитал журнал is what we should get. If it's a girl that's talking here, you'd say когда я прочитала журнал. Хорошо? Отлично. Номер 4. Number 4 there. Вчера мы посмотрели фильм Анна Каренина. Yesterday we watched the movie Анна Каренина. А сегодня я начал blank книгу. And today I started. That's what that начал is. You started I believe you started doing it. So, do not conjugate it, just decide whether you need читать or прочитать. And you started actually reading, not I started getting it done. No, you just started reading. So, начал читать. Очень хорошо. Number 5. Мария Петровна долго blank его письмо. Долго. When you've got something that indicates a duration of time, we must be emphasizing how long something took. We're talking about the process, time invested in it. Хорошо? So, Maria Petrovna, for a long time, read his letter. Past tense. Долго читала его письмо. Хорошо? Imperfective. Process. Читать. Хорошо? Сейчас она его уже, now it already finished reading, we hope, right? So, прочитала. Now she's through with it. Хорошо? Отлично. A new set of verbs. Строить versus построить. Строить is to be building something. Построить is to have built it, to be done with it. Хорошо? So then, what do we got? Этот новый город blank 6 лет. This new city, something 6 years. Maybe it took 6 years to build it. We're going to be using the they form in the past tense. We're talking about the duration of time, the process. Хорошо? So then it is, этот город строили 6 лет. Сейчас его уже, our good friend, уже, already, да? When you've got that, put построили. Now it's already been built. So the next one is построили. They got it done. Хорошо. Let's see the example number 2. Когда blank наш дом, начали blank другой новый дом. The first part. When something our house, they started building another new house. Perhaps when they got done with ours, they went on to build the next one. Хорошо? So then it is, когда построили, there it is, наш дом, начали, they started to be doing, to be working on the next house. They started строить. Хорошо? Начали строить новый дом. Хорошо? Какой хороший новый дом, number 3. Его давно blank. What a great new house. It, for a long time, actually here давно probably means long time ago. Okay? And we're looking at a complete house that's already been built. So, the way I understand this is what a beautiful new home. Has it been built for a long time? How long ago was it built? Хорошо? So it's the completion. When did this get done? Хорошо? Его давно построили is what I would use. Очень хорошо. Number 4. Олег долго жил в Новосибирске, где он blank дома. Олег for a long time lived in Novosibirsk, where he blank houses. I guess he built houses. That's what he was doing. We're just stating a fact. We're not saying he built all the houses in that whole city. Not completion, but spending the time doing it. That's what he did. Хорошо? So then you get строил. Где он строил дома. Хорошо? Number 5. Такие дома обычно blank очень долго. This type of houses usually very long time. Usually build for a very long time. It takes a long time to build this type of houses. They build them for a long time. That's the literal. So, такие дома обычно очень долго строят is what you should get. Хорошо? Take my word for it. And then see how this works in the sentence when you go through these examples once again. Number 6, we've got город blank долго, но сейчас уже blank дома, школы, театры, бла-бла-бла. Хорошо? Долго, for a long time, and it's over with. So, probably they took a long time to build this city. Город строили долго, there it is. And now they've already built. Сейчас уже построили. And you know that that's the fact because you see уже, it's already been done. Хорошо. Now we've got the new verb. Рассказывать versus рассказать. рассказывать. 3-4. Рассказывать. And рассказать. Хорошо? Рассказывать is to be telling a story. Рассказать is to tell the whole story and stop doing it, right? That's the result, complete, single action. Perfective. Хорошо. Let's see what we can do. There's Oleg. I promised that we will see him talking about his work in Akademgorodok, which is kind of like a Silicon Valley in the middle of Siberia. So, Oleg долго blank о работе в Академгородке. Oleg for a long time told stories about his work at Akademgorodok for a long time. Must be process. So then it is рассказывал. Очень хорошо. А потом он начал blank об институте, где он учился. And then he started telling stories about the university where he used to study. He started to be telling stories again. We don't know when he will finally stop it, right? It's a process again. Потом он начал рассказывать. It's the infinitive of the imperfective verb, still dealing with the process. Хорошо? Number 2. Когда Олег все blank, мы начали смотреть телевизор. When Олег everything blank, we started watching television. So basically when Oleg finally said everything he had to say, when he finished telling his story, we started watching television. Хорошо? Perfective, when he has completed it. Perfective, past tense, that means we take the verb рассказать, put it in the past tense to match Oleg, and you get когда Олег все рассказал. Отлично. Номер 3. Маша долго blank о дедушке и бабушке. Masha for a long time told stories about дедушка and бабушка which live in the country. For a long time. That's a pretty good indication that you need imperfective. Рассказывала. Хорошо? There it is. Number actually still the same one. Когда она все blank, мы начали играть в шахматы. When she has told everything there was to tell about дедушка and бабушка, we started playing chess. Wow. So, when she got done with it, when she has completed it, so past tense of perfective рассказать. Рассказала is what you get. Хорошо? Number 4. Владимир часто blank о доме отдыха. Vladimir often, I think, tells story about this resort that he went to. Good for him. Хорошо? He often does it. That means that perhaps you need a present tense verb. We can only have present tense for the imperfective ones, which is the first in the pair. Часто рассказывая. There it is. Очень хорошо. Смотрите дальше. And number 5. Лариса недолго blank о пассажире в самолете. Larissa, not for a long time, talked about the passenger in the plane. Okay, but she still spent time doing it. We're emphasizing that she spent time, or we're simply saying that she did it, right? Mere fact, or the process, but certainly not she got to tell her story. We're not doing that. It's not result or completion, so then it is the imperfective in the past tense, недолго рассказывала. There it is. Очень хорошо. I think that we are going to deal with показывать versus показать, делать versus сделать a little bit later. That is in lesson 20. Хорошо? But keep in mind that while with the verbs читать and also строить, we form the perfective by putting a prefix in front of it. We say прочитать means to finish reading. Построить is to have built. Хорошо? With the verbs such as рассказывать and показывать, to tell a story and to show, the perfective ones are actually shorter. They're formed with a different stem. So the perfective of рассказывать is рассказать, and perfective of показывать is показать. They are tricky. Хорошо? Ну что ж. Here is one more thing that we are going to do today, and it is Reviewing the endings for the prepositional case. Посмотрите, пожалуйста. So, if you would like to follow along with what I am doing here, I'm on page 201. I'm looking at the grammar entry 11.9, where it deals with this prepositional case that ends in an U. Хорошо? And as you may remember, the typical prepositional case ending is a ye, right? Something like you start out with a noun that ends in a consonant, like Dallas, and you'd say in Dallas by adding a ye to it. В Далласе. Okay, pretty straightforward. You start out with a typical noun that ends in an a or ya, you replace those and put a ye there. So, Москва, in Moscow then is в Москве. So here's that example. В Москве, в Далласе. Очень хорошо. Pretty straightforward. Now, sometimes it gets a little bit more tricky when you are dealing with a noun that ends in I, ya. Then you need to replace that final ya with another I. So, if you have компания, you will end up with в компании. Хорошо? If you have Россия, which ends in ия, not just ya, but ия, you'll end up with in Russia, в России. Хорошо? Another example that I have down here is общежитие. It ends in ие and ends up being в общежитии. The actual rule about those funny-looking prepositional case endings that end up with a double E is that when you've got a noun that to begin with ends in ия, ие, or и краткая, you're gonna end up with a EE ending. And there is one more tricky bunch, which is the one that we see here in the lesson. You may end up with the prepositional case ending U. That happens with a very small group of masculine nouns. And also, it only happens when you talk about those as places, not about them, okay? It's not about the forest, а лесу, no, it's о лесе. But when you want to say in the forest, which is the example that we've got there, you will have в лесу. Not only is it an U, it's an accented U. So in the woods, in the forest is в лесу, okay? In the garden, in the backyard or something like that would be в саду, which is that second example that we've got. So в лесу, в саду. An example that's not in the book, but I'd say very useful, is в аэропорту, аэропорту, in the airport. В аэропорту. Хорошо? I was in the airport. Я был в аэропорту. Хорошо? But when I'm talking about it, я скажу, я был извините, я говорю об аэропорте. So only when it's a location do you need to use the accented U for a very small group. Очень хорошо. Прекрасно. Ну что ж, гораздо больше imperfective, perfective, even more of it coming your way in lesson 20, 21, 22, etc. As far as we can see. So today we reviewed some forms of prepositional case. Dolga versus Davno. Dolga is for a long time, Davno is for a long time. Look at the entry 11.7 to see what that is all about. Хорошо? Then we saw the modifiers. The homework is 11.8 part B, where you have to mix them all up. Page 201. And of course, vocabulary and dialogues. Большое спасибо. До свидания. Здравствуйте! Как вы поживаете? Как дела? Ну что ж, сегодня мы с вами в первую очередь повторим местоимения и прилагательные. So the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to review some pronouns, so-called indicative pronouns, things like this, that, and also some other adjectives that as well depend on the gender of the noun that they modify. Last time we spent a bit of time dealing with one and all. We had все being different depending on the gender of the noun, and one, один, одна, одно, etc. being different as well. We'll review that today. One more thing that we're going to do is also go ahead and spend even more time on aspects of verbs. That is something that we can't escape. In addition to that, we will have Dolga versus Davno with some more examples. Of course, Dolga is for a long time and not happening right now. Davno for a long time and is still going on, and also Davno has another meaning of long time ago. But first things first. Let's go ahead and look at all, entire. Весь is what we've got. If you'd like to follow along, you can easily find that in your textbook. It's going to be there on page 195. Хорошо? So, весь is all. For example, весь понедельник, the entire Monday. There it is. Весь понедельник. Понедельник is masculine. As a result, you would have весь being masculine. If, however, you have something feminine like среда, Wednesday, to say the whole Wednesday, you'll have вся среда. Now it gets even trickier because time phrases usually are put in accusative case. So what you really will be saying in a complete sentence is всю среду, with вся being replaced for всю, среда for среду. Хорошо? But we'll stick with just what we've got right now. Хорошо? If you want to say the entire Sunday, воскресенье being neuter, there it is. Воскресенье being neuter will require you to use всё. So the whole Sunday, всё воскресенье. Хорошо? By the way, when we talk about spending the whole day doing something, you're going to use imperfective verbs, wouldn't you? You're talking about process. So something like, I read this book all Sunday. Я читал эту книгу всё воскресенье. Хорошо? Затем, another example is all in plural. For example, все деньги. All the money. Хорошо? Money in Russian is plural, as you remember. So, все деньги. Хорошо? All my money. Все мои деньги. И так далее. Хорошо. So that's все, which has four forms. Masculine весь, feminine вся, neuter всё, and then plural все. Хорошо? Very similar thing happens to one. One, один, is treated like an adjective in Russian. So then if you want to say one Tuesday, you will have один вторник. Хорошо? Вторник being masculine will get you to say один вторник. Хорошо? But one Friday, пятница, being feminine, you will have одна пятница. Хорошо? So one is an adjective, which depends on the gender of the noun. It modifies один вторник, одна пятница. Neuter, you could have, like we had before, одно воскресенье, or another example, одно дело. Хорошо? Дело is business. I have one business to deal with. Одно дело. Хорошо? That's the дело we use in как дела. Хорошо? Okay? И, наконец, and then finally, одни. The plural form of one, well, actually, it means alone, for more than one person. And here's a complete example. Они жили там одни. They lived there alone. Хорошо? They weren't alone, there were two of them, or whatever number was, but we do that in English too. The phrase itself is a little strange. So, одни, plural form of one. Хорошо? I would like you to see a quick example of what we just went through that illustrates how to use this entire. Весь день, все утро, весь вечер. Take a look, please. Таня, что вы вчера делали?
Я все утро работала в своем офисе. Потом я весь день разговаривала со школьниками по телефону.
Понятно.
А потом весь вечер отдыхала дома.
Хорошо.
А вы, Дмитрий, что делали?
Я все утро преподавал в университете, потом после обеда работал здесь, в студии, но потом весь вечер слушал музыку дома.
О, хорошо.
Очень хорошо. А теперь давайте посмотрим, what this was about. So, Таня, что вы вчера делали? Таня, what did you do yesterday? Please notice I'm using делали. Imperfective, what were you doing? What did you do? Merely asking about the fact, not what did you get done. And she answers in the same style. She says, я все утро, entire morning, утро being neuter, все утро работала в своем офисе, worked in my office. Потом весь день, что весь день? Давайте посмотрим. Говорила по телефону со школьниками. Then all day, весь день, день being masculine, весь день, говорила по телефону, spoke on the telephone со школьниками, with students, literally schoolmates, right? По телефону is on the phone. Хорошо? А потом весь вечер отдыхала дома. And then all evening, once again, evening is masculine, so we're using весь. Весь вечер отдыхала дома. Relaxed, rested, at home. Please notice that we are using all imperfective verbs here. Хорошо? Едем дальше. Let's keep going. А вы, Дмитрий, что вчера делали? And you, Dmitry, what did you do yesterday? Я все утро преподавал в университете. I all morning, утро neuter, so все утро преподавал в университете, taught at the university. Дальше, потом, после обеда, then after lunch, that is how Russians usually say in the afternoon, после обеда. So, потом, then, после обеда, работал здесь, в студии, worked here, in the studio, а потом, весь вечер, слушал музыку дома. And then, all evening, вечер being masculine, we're using весь, слушал музыку дома, listen to music at home. That sounds like science fiction. Хорошо. Ну что ж, давайте еще раз это посмотрим. Теперь вы понимаете, что здесь происходит, и это будет для вас более полезным. Now you know what's happening, so looking at it once again will be very helpful in reinforcing that idea of все утро, all morning long, весь день, all day, all afternoon, etc. Весь вечер, all evening. Пожалуйста. Таня, что вы вчера делали?
Я все утро работала в своем офисе. Потом я весь день разговаривала со школьниками по телефону.
Понятно.
А потом весь вечер отдыхала дома.
Хорошо.
А вы, Дмитрий, что делали?
Я все утро преподавал в университете, потом после обеда работал здесь, в студии, но потом весь вечер слушал музыку дома.
О, хорошо.
Очень хорошо. А теперь самое главное. Несовершенные, совершенные виды глаголов. Now the most important thing we have dealt with for a few lessons, are continuing on, and will still be dealing with for quite a while, and that is imperfective and perfective aspects of verb. What it is once again the whole notion of each action having an imperfective component, that is an idea that you're simply talking about something happening, about the time that's spent on doing something. Okay? And the second component, perfective, which deals with getting it done. Not doing it, but getting it done. Okay? Result, completion. Хорошо. First, a couple examples. We know those verbs. Начинать, to begin. There it is, посмотрите. Of course, you're going to use another infinitive of another verb after it. Something like to begin writing. Начинать, писать. To begin watching, looking, начинать смотреть, etc. Хорошо? That's to be getting things started. To be kicking things off. Хорошо? It's a normal first conjugation verb. Therefore, it conjugates like that. Я начинаю. Please repeat after me. Я начинаю. Ты начинаешь. Он начинает. Мы начинаем. Вы начинаете. Они начинают. Very, very straightforward. Хорошо? Another example. Мы начинаем читать. We're beginning to read. Хорошо? Мы начинаем писать. Мы начинаем anything. Хорошо? That's when you are getting started. Хорошо? Also, past tense is extremely useful. He was beginning to do something when something else happens, for example. Хорошо? Он начинал. Хорошо? She began. Она начинала. They were beginning. Они начинали. Хорошо? Now, in the past tense, it's going to be more useful to use the perfective verb, the perfective aspects, to get it started. Хорошо? To kick things off. Not to be starting, but to just go from zero to having started. That's the perfective to begin. Начать. Хорошо? Начать. Okay? If you conjugate it to make it look like present tense, you're gonna end up with future tense. You remember that idea of not having present tense of the perfective aspect. The idea that you cannot have an action completed, have a result derived from it and still happening in the present. Doesn't happen. So, let's go ahead and focus on what we will be able to use now, and that is past tense. So, he got started. He began. Он начал. Хорошо? She began. Она начала. And once again, use any infinitive after. Она начала. She began to read. Она начала читать. Хорошо? Infinitive, which means it'll have мягкий знак there. So, they began. Они начали. Очень хорошо. Ну что ж, теперь давайте мы с вами окончательно вернемся к несовершенному совершенному видам. Now we're going to once again really focus on imperfective and perfective aspects. It's going to be coming out of your textbook. Go ahead and go to page 200. Хорошо? And what we are doing is imperfective, which once again, imperfective means that you're dealing with process, you're dealing with simply the fact that something took place, and repeated action, repetition. Хорошо? To say, I read this book, stating a fact. Я читал эту книгу. Okay? It's a great book. So you could say, я читал эту книгу много раз. I read this book many times. Use читал, imperfective. Okay? And process, focusing on how long it took. Я читал эту книгу весь день. I read this book all day. So there it is. Fact, process, and repetition for the imperfective. Хорошо? For the perfective, we're going to use the idea of result and completion. Я прочитал эту книгу. I got this book read. I finished reading it. I know everything in it. Okay. Я прочитал, completion, result, etc. Хорошо. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at the first four examples that we are given. Actually, go to page 198. That's where those examples are, under the section 11.8. Very straightforward stuff. Виктор читал книгу 2 часа. Imperfective. Victor read the book for 2 hours. Process, right? Хорошо? Then, сейчас он прочитал книгу. Now he finished reading the book. He read it. He got it done. Completion. Perfective. Хорошо? Another example. Этот театр строили год. This theater was being built for a year. That's how long it took. So they were building it. Строили. Imperfective. Process. Хорошо? Then, этот театр, сейчас наш театр уже построили. Now it is completed. It got built. Literally, да? Хорошо? It's done. Whenever you see уже, that's a good indication that you're dealing with perfective, and that's the form you need to use. Хорошо? Okay. So, now, going to page 200 and looking at the second batch there. Строить, построить. Хорошо? Строить, to be building. Построить, to have built. Хорошо? To have gotten it done. Отлично. Example number 1. Этот новый город blank 6 лет. This new city was being built for 6 years. That's what I think it is. So, строили is what we get. Хорошо? Сейчас его уже, now it has already been built. It's been done. Уже indicates that you need perfective, so it is построили. Очень хорошо. Second example. Когда blank our home начали blank another new home. I think we're dealing with when our home got finished, was built, they started building another home. So the first part, when they got it done, perfective, result. Когда построили наш дом, хорошо, they began to be building, they began doing it, they began the infinitive. Начали строить is what you'd use. Очень хорошо. Отлично. Третий пример. Какой хороший новый дом. What a great new home. Его давно blank. It for a long time, or maybe давно in this case means long time ago. I think that's the only use for it. What you're saying is, has it been built long ago? Have they completed it a while ago? So его давно построили is what I'd use there. Очень хорошо. Номер 4, number 4. Олег долго жил в Новосибирске, где он blank дома. Олег has lived in the past in Novosibirsk for a long time, where he blank houses. What did he do there? He built houses, right? That's what he did while he was there. Imperfective, past tense, где он строил дома. Очень хорошо. Отлично. Number 5. Такие дома обычно blank очень долго. This type of houses, they usually very long time build. They take a long time to build. Okay, so they build in general, present tense, imperfective, строят. Хорошо? Once again, don't despair. This takes a lot of practice and a lot of actually figuring out what it means before you can come up with the right verb in the right form. Хорошо? Так, number 6. Город blank долго, но сейчас, etc., etc. Долго, for a long time, but it's in the past. So, they took a long time to build this city. Долго строили is what you should get. Хорошо? But now they've built houses, schools, theaters, etc. Okay? Уже is there. They have already completed. So as a result, since you've got уже and the meaning of completion, result, there are those houses, etc., you do use построили, perfective. Очень хорошо. Now, рассказывать, рассказать. We go into the third batch. Рассказывать is to be narrating, to be telling a story. Рассказать is the perfective of it. Очень хорошо. Давайте посмотрим. Let's see. Number 1. Олег долго blank о работе в Академгородке. Олег for a long time. That's your indication. For a long time must be the process. Рассказывал. Хорошо? А потом он начал, and then he started telling about something. He started to do it. Imperfective still, but infinitive. Начал рассказывать. Хорошо? Number 2. When Олег everything told, we started watching television. When he got done, perfective completion. Когда он все рассказал. Хорошо? Очень хорошо. Number 3. Masha for a long time. Whenever you see that, go ahead and use рассказывала. Imperfective. Рассказывала. Хорошо? Которые живут в деревне. When she has told the whole story. Когда она все рассказала. Perfective. Хорошо? Владимир, number 4. Часто. Владимир often must be happening now. Often tells. When something gets done repeatedly, we use imperfective. So that's what we do. Часто рассказывает. Хорошо? And number 5, final. Larisa недолго. Larisa, not for a long time, talked about this passenger on the plane. Да? Недолго рассказывала. Хорошо? Отлично. Now let's go to the fourth batch. Показывать versus показать. To be showing versus to have shown. Same idea as with рассказывать, рассказать. What we do here is, number 1, посмотрите. Вера редко blank квартиру. Vera seldom shows off her apartment. Okay. Вера редко, that's what she does. Present tense must be imperfective. Редко показывает. Хорошо. Но сегодня, когда мы были у нее, она долго blank ее. But today, when we were at her place, she took a long time to show it. She was doing it for a while. So, imperfective, past. Показывала. Очень хорошо. Number 2. Когда Петр Антонович blank все фотографии, он сказал, let's play chess. Хорошо. When Anton Petrovich has shown all the pictures. When he was through, he finally said, hey, let's play chess. Do something fun, right? Okay. So, показал is what we do. Perfective. Хорошо. Number 3. Я не знал, где мой портфель, и Володя blank его. I had no idea where my briefcase was, so Volodya showed it to me. One time. Just single complete action. Not that he was showing the briefcases here or there. No. Just one time. So, показал. Хорошо. Number 4. Маша всегда с удовольствием. Masha always, with great enthusiasm, shows her apartment. Okay, well, present tense must be imperfective. Показывает. Хорошо. Now, делать, сделать. Those two are extremely useful. Делать, to be doing it. Сделать, to get it done. That's a perfect example of imperfective, to be doing it, and perfective, to get it done. Хорошо? Ну что ж, давайте посмотрим. Что вы blank вчера вечером? What you did last night. Is the question about what did you get done or what were you doing? I think it's what were you doing. So, что вы делали вчера вечером? Хорошо. Мы смотрели хорошую передачу, бла-бла-бла. Number 2. Что blank Елена Владимировна, когда она прочитала эту книгу? What did Елена Владимировна do after she finished this book? What was she doing? Что делала? What did she get done? Что сделала? I would agree to both. Either one is fine. What we've got here is что сделала. What did she do next? Хорошо. Okay, number 3. Что blank строители, когда они построили ваш дом? What did the builders start doing? Что? What did they do? Что сделали? What did they switch to? So that's what we've got. Что сделали? Хорошо. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at something a little bit more fun, and that is a review of prepositional case endings. I'm sure you remember the idea of answering the question где, where at, with a noun that ends in a е. Где, е. So, где в Москве, где в Далласе. Хорошо? Then sometimes you end up with a double E ending, like Россия being в России. Хорошо? And last time we also had a couple rather weird looking endings. Those were in the forest, in the woods, etc. В лесу, в саду. Хорошо? Some masculine nouns take that accented U as an ending. So, in the woods, в лесу, in the garden, в саду. Хорошо? And another example that we had was в аэропорту, at the airport. Очень хорошо. Так, ну что ж. Now we're going to do something else. I would like to show you an illustration of imperfective and perfective verbs being used in the past. Пожалуйста, посмотрите. Таня, ты уже прочитала этот журнал?
Нет еще. Я вчера читала весь вечер, но еще не все прочитала. А ты, Дмитрий, уже прочитал этот журнал?
Я тоже еще не все прочитал. Я его читал всю субботу, но еще не все прочитал. Да, кстати, Таня, ты не знаешь, они уже сделали эту работу?
Нет еще. Они работали все утро, но еще не все сделали.
Спасибо.
Пожалуйста.
Хорошо. Давайте посмотрим, о чем это все было. Let's see what it was about. Таня, ты уже прочитала новый журнал. Таня, have you read? Уже indicates you're gonna use perfective. Have you done it? Have you completed? Have you finished reading the новый журнал, new magazine? Еще нет, not yet. Вчера я читала весь вечер, all evening, so читала. Was reading all evening, spend the whole evening reading. Imperfective, process. Но еще не все прочитала, but haven't read everything yet. Haven't finished. Не прочитала. Хорошо? So, three main things there. Уже сделала, have you done it, делала, and then will get it done, etc. Хорошо? Ну что ж. А ты, Дмитрий, уже прочитал этот журнал, and you, Дмитрий, have you already read this magazine? Same deal there, right? Тоже еще нет, also not yet. Я читал всю субботу, I read all Saturday. We started out with вся суббота there, feminine, and then turned it into всю субботу because time phrases are usually in accusative case, direct objects, just like I said before. Но еще не все прочитал. I haven't read everything yet. Хорошо? And the final batch there was Таня, они уже сделали эту работу. Таня, have they done this work? Have they completed this? Сделали. Perfective. We're using it with уже. Еще нет, not yet. Вчера они работали все утро. They worked all morning. They spent the morning working. So we're using imperfective работали. Но еще не все сделали. But so far didn't get everything done. Да? Не все. Not everything. Хорошо? Отлично. So, main idea here once again is, have you done it? Вы сделали? Perfective, right? Вы уже сделали? Have you already finished it? Хорошо? The answer, еще нет. Not yet. Хорошо? Then, я делал это все утро. I was doing this all morning. Imperfective, talking about spending time. Хорошо? Но еще не сделал. But haven't completed it. Haven't gotten it done. Хорошо? Take a look at it once again. Let's review it. Таня, ты уже прочитала этот журнал?
Нет еще. Я вчера читала весь вечер, но еще не все прочитала. А ты, Дмитрий, уже прочитал этот журнал?
Я тоже еще не все прочитал. Я его читал всю субботу, но еще не все прочитал. Да, кстати, Таня, ты не знаешь, они уже сделали эту работу?
Нет еще. Они работали все утро, но еще не все сделали.
Спасибо.
Пожалуйста.
One more thing. Dolga versus Davno. Dolga for a long time, Davno for a long time, and also Davno as in long time ago. So let's take a look at one. Dolga for a long time and not happening right now. That's the idea. It's a general statement like я долго гуляю. I take long walks or something like that. Хорошо? Или я долго читал эту книгу, но сейчас не читаю. I've read this book for a long time, but not reading it now. If you want to talk about something that's been happening for a while and still is, for that one you use давно. That's for a long time and still now. As in, я давно читаю эту книгу. I've been reading this book for a while. Хорошо? Then things get finally truly muddled with давно meaning a long time ago. Давно я читал эту книгу. Long time ago I read this book. Хорошо? Something of that nature. We'll do more work with it. Plus, you'll have a perfect opportunity to practice it using exercise 11.7, which will be in your homework. Here's what we did today. We looked at Dolga versus Davno. We have looked at one and all, and a few examples as well. And of course, the aspects of verbs imperfective, perfective, несовершенный, совершенный. Очень хорошо. Now let's see what the homework is going to be. 11.8b. Page 201, that's imperfective, perfective. And the above mentioned exercise 11.7 on page 198. That is use of давно, долго, etc. And of course, try practicing the vocabulary, deal with the dialogues. Очень хорошо. На этом мы с вами наш урок заканчиваем. Спасибо. До свидания.